Hello, this is Let's Talk About It show, and today we talk about how to lead an uncommon and extraordinary life under any circumstance. And our guest will highlight to you his four truths about how to live this uncommon and extraordinary life through the very difficult health journey as well as life as always gives us something to deal with. Our guest is Terry Tucker. Hello, Terry.
Lucy, Jim, thank you very much for having me on. I'm looking forward to talking with you today.
Well, we're looking forward to having you give these our listeners some ideas about how to overcome some of the barriers they might be facing.
So tell
I
us
appreciate
more.
that.
Yes, Terry, please tell us more about the four truths, your highlights, and how you decided that those are 4 points that you want to share with others.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a funny story. I was on a podcast called The Three Truths. So I needed to know what my three truths were. It really gave me an opportunity to sort of think about what was important, what was foundational, what was almost bedrock, that it wasn't going to move. And I came up with these three truths. And then the more I learned, the more I thought, the more I understood, I wanted to add a fourth one. So I have them on a Post-it note here in my office. So I see them multiple times during the day and they constantly get reinforced in my mind. So I'll give them to you. They're just one sentence each. The first one is control your mind, or your mind is going to control you. The second one is embrace the pain that we all experience in life and use that pain and difficulty to make you a stronger and more resilient individual. The third one, and this is the one I added, is more of a legacy type of truth. And it's this: what you leave behind is what you weave in the hearts of other people. And then the fourth one I feel is pretty self-explanatory. It's as long as you don't quit, you can never be defeated. And I refer to these four truths kind of as the bedrock of my soul. I think they're just a good place to try to start to build a quality life off of.
Yes, they do. Do you think we get to a point where we hear some of these things over the years? Our parents have told us some of these things, and we brush them off if something happens. Well, that works great for them, but it doesn't work for me. How can we get out of that and quit feeling so alone? Quit being dispassionate about our own lives and our own opportunities.
Yeah, I think we are better together than we are separately. If the COVID pandemic taught us anything, it's how much we need each other. During COVID, when we were all isolated, alcoholism rates went up, drug abuse rates went up, divorce rates went up, domestic violence rates went up. We are better together than we are separately. And I think a lot of us sort of feel that, where do I fit? Where do I fit in life, with whether it's friends or whether it's a job or whether it isn't? And we get caught up, I think, in the fact that, I've got to have it all figured out. Well, I'm almost 65 years old and I don't have it all figured out. So understand you don't have to have it figured out. Understand, I think, what your gifts and talents are. We all have unique gifts and talents. And then find people to climb the mountain with. Find people that care about you. Find people that want you to succeed. Find people that make you better and climb with them. It's so much more important, the people you work with, the people you hang around, than it is the type of work or the things that you do in life. It's what you do. It's the people you do them with. It's not so much the work. We can all do work by ourselves, but we are better together. So find those people. And I'll give you one quick story. I am actively being treated for cancer. And one of the nurses that helps me every 3 weeks when I go for my treatment is a former hospice nurse. And for those of your audience who don't understand hospice, those are people who take care of others at the end of their life. And she recommended a book to me called Imagine Heaven. And the book is about people who have near-death experiences. And there was a lot of interesting things in there, but one of the most interesting that I took away from it was no matter who the person saw when they had these near-death experience, whether it was Jesus or Allah or a saint or an angel or a friend or a relative, the one question that almost all of them seemed to get asked was, how do you treat my people? In other words, how do we treat each other? They didn't get asked, did you cheat on your spouse, or did you cheat on your taxes, or did you embezzle money from your company? And not that those things aren't important, they are. But the one question was always, how do you treat each other? How do we get along with each other? And I think that's such an important part in our life. If I'm going to be remembered for anything in my life, I want it to be for the relationships, for the connections that I had with other people.
Well, I applaud that. That is excellent.
That is very much. Well, Terry, you have an experience, so please tell our listeners, many of whom are dealing with different kind of health condition. Some of those are permanent, including chronic pains and chronic autoimmune disorders and cancers and many other things. And practically it's hard to see the light where everything is dark, where there is a pain and there are other difficulties. And so how to start seeing that light and seeing the things that we can do to improve?
Yeah, it's a great question, Lucy, because one of the things that I learned, and I was fortunate enough to play college basketball myself, and I started playing basketball when I was 9 years old and played all the way up until I graduated from college when I was 21. And one of the things that team sports, and for me it was sports, I think we're all on different teams. It could be our family, it could be our colleagues, it could be our religious affiliate, whatever it is. We're all on different teams in our life. But what team sports taught me was the importance of being part of something that's bigger than yourself. You realize on a team that if you don't do your job, not only do you let yourself down, but you let your teammates down, your coaches down, your fans down, etc. And if you think about it, the biggest team game that we all play is this game of life. And so, I'm really focused on finding things that are bigger than me, finding things that are outside of me. I'm on a clinical trial drug now for the tumors I have in my lungs that more than likely is not going to save my life, but it might save the life of somebody 5 years from now, 10 years from now, based on the data that the doctors are gleaning from my labs and my blood tests and my scans and things like that. So for me, that's being part of something that's bigger than yourself. So I keep coming back to this. It's the relationships that we have. It's how we fight through the ugliness and the difficulties, but you don't do it by yourself. You do it with your team. You do it whatever that looks like. For me, it's my family. It's my medical team. It's my faith. It's my friends. Those are all things in combination that help me get through my now 12-year battle with cancer.
12 years. What a great blessing. I mean, just think, 40 years ago, that might have been impossible.
Well, 12 years ago, they told me it was. They told me I'd be dead in 2 years. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, you gave me a death sentence. What can I do to turn that death sentence into a life sentence? And That's really what I've been trying to do these last, 12 years. But, figure these last 10 years have been extra for me, things that I wasn't supposed to have.
It kind of makes me think about how you think about the people that came along and got these premonitions in the middle of the night and create these discoveries of the medicine or one more thing to do, and all of it working together to help you. Lucy and I go for afternoon walks with our little puppy, Sophie. We encounter so many nice people. Now, we live in Canada. We moved to Canada from Ukraine just before the war began. And then we had to go to Istanbul, Mexico City, and then to here. And it's fascinating to us is that we don't encounter grumpy people every day. We see nice, really nice people everywhere we walk. I don't know if it's our attitude or what, but we see the world from our vantage point as being a wonderful place with people like you that are hoping and thriving. We don't see it being negative and painful. I admire you.
Well, thank you. When you were telling that story, I was thinking my middle brother is the president of a Catholic high school in Chicago, fairly large school run by the Marist brothers. And a couple of years ago, they asked him to go to Guatemala and to review, to take a look at the school in Guatemala. And he was a little hesitant. He was like, yeah, Guatemala's kind of a third world country. I'm not sure I'm going to be safe. He said, I got off the plane at 10 o'clock at night and there's all these armed guards with, AK-47s in the airport. And we went in an armed convoy to the Marist compound. And he said, the next morning we got up and we went up into the mountains to the Marist High School there. And he said, I was talking to the principal and I asked him, how do you deal with bullying and, cyberbullying that goes on and fighting and racism and stuff like that? And the principal looked at him like, what are you talking about? He said, well, how do you deal with that here? How do you deal with racism and sexism and bullying and all the things that we deal with in our schools here? And he looked at my brother and he said, we don't have those things here. He said, our students understand that their education is the only way out of abject poverty here. Most of these students don't have running water. They live in homes with dirt floors, and they understand that their education is so important that they don't mess around with, all the things that, sort of the first world problems that we have here in the United States. And my brother really, I think that really kind of got him to think about how fortunate, how lucky we are here in the States or here in the West, so to speak, that other people never see. You never see what's going on in Ukraine. You never see the poverty in Mexico and things like that. And it really got my brother thinking, these problems are first world problems. They're not third world problems. Third world people understand that an education is the only way out for us. Otherwise, we're just going to keep the cycle going.
You're so right. Hey, I have to tell you this quick story parenthetically. Okay, my wife and I were living in Mexico City, and here we go. We're going shopping on a Saturday. We go to the pyramids or something. She wants a new purse. We go to the mall there, and she goes in. She buys a purse, and lo and behold, we say, okay, we want to get a nice Mexican meal. So we go upstairs, have a nice Mexican meal, and then we decide to come to take our time sightseeing, and we come back downstairs and happen to walk through the same mall area that we happen to buy the purse. But we're not really thinking about any of that, just thinking about the great time we've had. All of a sudden, a woman runs after us, and she's out of breath. And I don't remember if she tapped us on the shoulder or which, but somehow she got our attention, and she said, in Spanish, she reminded us that we overpaid her. Mm-hmm. She ran after us. This is hours later to tell us that we overpaid her and gave us some coins back in our hands. And I have never forgotten it over 2 years now that, wow, she could have used that money. And yet she ran to tell us. Now, people think that the world is bad and it's all crooked. It's not all crooked. There are a lot of good people like yourself and your wife and your daughter that's all over the world.
Yeah, they really are. And if you think about it, character, which is really what you're talking about, a person of good character,
yes.
Where is that developed? That's usually developed in the first 20 years of your life, as you're growing up. Usually you get it from your family, your friends, your school, your faith-based, whatever it ends up being. And I remember I had my first job out of college was in the corporate headquarters of Wendy's International, the hamburger chain. Mm-hmm. And my second job was as a hospital administrator. But in between there, I remember I interviewed for a job with a packaging company. And I met with the vice president or senior vice president of marketing. And we spent an hour and a half talking about really my life from the time I was born until the time I graduated from college. Not one question about business, not one question about marketing, not one question about my philosophy of working with the team. And I said to him afterwards, I said, I've got to ask you, this is the strangest interview I've ever had. Why did we not talk about, you didn't ask me one question about business or marketing. He said, I've got plenty of people that'll tell me whether you're a good fit for the team. And incidentally, I did not get the job, so I must not have been a good fit. But what he said was, I want to hire people of good character. And I believe character is developed in the first 20 years of your life. And the other thing he said to me that I thought was interesting, he said, I believe character is caught. It's not taught. So you're not going to read a book and say, you know what, I'm a person of good character. You're going to watch somebody handle a situation, you're going to say, boy, I really like the way she handled that. Or, boy, I didn't think he handled that very well. And that is going to develop the type of character that you just talked about of that woman coming after you and say, hey, you overpaid me. Here's your money back.
Yes. Yes.
Those are all great stories. Well, Terry, thank you very much for joining us and for sharing. The 4 truths will be very helpful to our viewers. Please reach out to Terry if you want to talk and learn more about the 4 truths, and send us a message. Thank you very much, Terry.
Thank you, my friend.
Lucy, thank you very much. I appreciate it.